Hello and welcome to Maximum Disc, a show where I celebrate physical media and talk about films that I own on Blu Ray and 4K Blu Ray. I'm James Adamson, I'm a co-host on the Double Reel Film Podcast, and if you like this chat about physical media, please do check out Double Reel. It's a magazine-style podcast made by people who love the movies as much as you do. We think that any episode you listen to will give you a bunch of good recommendations of things to watch instead of just doing whatever the algorithm tells you to do. But leaving aside the sales pitch for the podcast, now we're talking about physical media. Why does it matter? Short version, if you care about a film, you need to own it. You'll have seen news stories about how films you've bought digitally are going to get wiped from the collection, whether it's Sony or Amazon. If you're relying on a streamer to just watch something that you want to see today, they might not have the thing you want, or they might have it today but not have it tomorrow. Will it be the version that you care about, the director's cut that makes it work? Is it available at all? Often it isn't. You're not really getting the full experience, and you certainly aren't getting the full experience of the film looking and sounding the way it should when you have it on a proper disc on a shelf for you to watch anytime you like. So each episode I talk about one film, and it's a case of looking at the audio and video and checking whether it's a good transfer. Not in the most technical detail. There are people who get right down to the pixel level. I just try and give you my view on whether this looks and sounds like it should, and shows off your home cinema system the way you'd like it to. You also have my view on what I think of the film, how I came to know about it, care about it, own it, and all of those things. When I round it up, I'll offer my views on whether I think it's a good addition to your physical media collection, which is just my opinion, but hopefully it'll help you make your mind up. So today we're talking about the Battle of Algiers on Blu Ray. This film came out in 1966. It was made in Algeria with a largely Italian crew in the French and Algerian language, so that's quite a European mix for the European and North African mix. It's based on the real events of Algeria's War of Independence from France in the 1950s and early 60s. Directed by Gillo Pontecorvo, an Italian director known primarily for this and a film called Queimada, or Burn as it's known in English, with Marlon Brando. The script was by Franco Salinas, who collaborated with Pontecorvo several times, and they based the screenplay on a book about the Algerian War of Independence by one of its main protagonists, who wrote a memoir of their experiences while imprisoned by the French. In terms of the cast, there's only one professional actor in the cast, from what I've read. Jean Martin, the French actor, plays the lead French army officer. He was a prominent actor in French and Italian cinema in particular, seen by international audiences in the spaghetti western My Name is Nobody and The Day of the Jackal, and he's obviously very famous for being in this film, The Battle of Algiers. Otherwise, it's mostly a cast of non-professionals who were chosen to make the film seem as real as possible. No baggage, no stars, nothing to separate the audience from their experience of the film. This includes people who, frankly, I am only ever going to know from being in this film. Sadi Youssef, Brahim Hajjaj, Tommaso Neri, Samia Kurbash, Ugo Palete, and Mohammed Ben Kassan. A number of the Algerian members of the cast had been operatives in the FLN, the French resistance movement of Algeria against the French, so their real-life experience was used in the film. For his part, the actor Jean Martin had been in the French resistance in World War II and a paratrooper in the French wars in Indochina, so he had real experience as well. He'd also been thrown out of a major theatre group in Paris for publicly supporting the Algerian freedom movement. So this was very real and very recent history brought to life, and it was certainly very real to all the people involved. The cinematography is by Marcello Gatti, whose use of black and white photography in the style of documentary newsreels was critical to the film's success. He was another frequent collaborator with Pontecorvo, and just to show you there's a lot of political consciousness among the people that made this film. He was imprisoned and then exiled from fascist Italy in the 1940s for defacing a portrait of Mussolini in Cinecittà, the legendary film studio in Rome. For the sound of the film, IMDb credits 4 people, but it's not clear who was the lead, so I'll just name them. Alberto Bartolomei, Alessandro Biancani, Omar Buxani, and Renato Marinelli, as well as the sound design of various gunfights and bombings and other actions and sounds to keep them busy in the film. They also had to supervise dubbing the voices of a number of non-professional members of the cast. The score is by the director Pontecorvo and Ennio Morricone, the great Ennio Morricone, who we all know very well. It's not a typical Morricone score apart from a few moments. It's very much geared towards the style of this film. In terms of awards and nominations that the film received, there's a bit of a story around this. First of all, don't expect to see any contemporary awards from French societies. It was banned in France for a year after its release and then not shown until the 1970s, mainly because no distributor would take it on due to terrorist bomb threats and death threats to the people involved from right-wing extremists. This film is really a live wire of a movie. Also, because of the usual quirks around when foreign films are shown and eligible in America, it was Oscar nominated in 2 different years. In its release year, it was nominated for Best Foreign Film as Italy's entry. Then 2 years later, it picked up 2 more Oscar nominations for director and screenplay. It was sort of showered with awards and nominations at various Italian awards groups and a few other places around the world, as well as winning something called the UN Award at the BAFTAs. I don't know what that is, but I suggest it's to do with the political and historical significance of the film. The Battle of Algiers' reputation has done nothing but grow ever since, in the 60 years now since it was released. Quick summary of what the film's about. The Battle of Algiers was an actual event. It was sort of a central part of the Algerian War of Independence. And this film starts towards the end of the Battle of Algiers itself in 1957, with some key members of the FLN, the English translation of that is National Liberation Front, the Algerian resistance being hunted down by the French occupying military. It then flashes back to the start of the Algerian War of Independence in 1954. At the time, Algiers in particular was kind of a sunny playground for the French to visit, and also for their expat community to live it up permanently in these luxurious surroundings. But the whole place is turned upside down in this conflict. The film shows key characters joining the conflict, the resistance against French rule, and the French attempting to put that resistance down. That the conflict has escalating violence on both sides, including both sides bombing civilian targets and the French authorities torturing Algerian suspects. As the conflict threatens to spiral out of control, the French government brings in a division or a group, whatever a battalion, of French paratroopers to conduct a police action led by Colonel Mathieu. While a lot of the key characters here are sort of real characters, for example, there's specific real figures on the Algerian side, this Colonel Mathieu is a composite of several leading officers on the French side, and there are some composite to dramatise characters on the Algerian side as well. Having said all that, the film, usually when you have these films based on real events and that sort of thing, be assured everyone sort of universally acknowledges that this film is very faithful to the true events in its depiction of the war. Now, we know that Algeria won its independence from France eventually, so that's not a plot spoiler, but the film has a number of surprises about what happened along the way, what happened in the actual War of Independence itself, and some hints about what happened going forward. And it brings brilliantly to life how bloody and tumultuous this struggle was, and what it did to kind of mobilise the people and change everything for a colonial country as well. So my background with the film is just kind of hearing about it, reading up about films, a list of best films ever, list of best French language films, all of these different things. It shows up all the time. Hearing this is a brilliant film, an influential film, something that you need to see. I had the old Love Film subscription where they would post discs out to you. It was eventually subsumed by Netflix, and it popped through the door one day. This is years and years and years ago, got to be like 20 years ago now. Watched it on DVD and was absolutely captivated. All the efforts that were made to give this film like a documentary style feel, a black and white newsreel style feel, to make all the action so realistic. The film is electric and compelling from beginning to end. It shows the conflict on both sides or from both sides. I think naturally there's a sympathy towards the Algerian cause, but I think it's even-handed to the extent it was criticised at the time for not, for making Colonel Mathieu seem too elegant and cultured. But they said, look, he was really well spoken. These officers were really well spoken. This is just what they were like, and it doesn't glorify terrorism or any violence really. It just shows what happened and the views and actions of the protagonists in the war. So this film stayed with me for years. I've thought about it. I haven't rewatched it very often, I've got to be honest. Look out for it on the TV and stuff. But I've thought about it and read about it. You find out about its influence on everyone from Paul Greengrass with his present-day documentary-style films. Even his Bourne trilogy films, you can see the influence. Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men, Full Metal Jacket, The Hurt Locker, William Friedkin's The French Connection, and his film Sorcerer for that matter. Four Lions, Army of Shadows, all the tracking shots in every Scorsese film, by the way. Ridley Scott's Black Hawk Down, Ken Loach's The Wind That Shakes the Barley, and Nolan's Dunkirk. They're just an endless list of films that, drew so much inspiration from how lifelike and dramatic and powerful you can make something, while also making it seem completely real, like it's happening right now, right in front of you. This film also had like a very important real world impact. Paramilitary groups and, let's face it, terrorist groups used it as a guide to organising their own campaigns. Counterinsurgencies and, let's face it, dictatorships used it as a guide to dealing with insurgents, including torture and repression of civilians. In 2003, this film was used by the USA in Iraq as a kind of guidebook, an example of how you can win military victories over the local population but lose the political battle. It's a guidebook and a warning and a document of events all in one. I've always been kind of looking out for a good copy of my own, not necessarily easy to get previous releases, and I'll go into the detail on that a little bit later. Last year, in 2025, as I record this, One Battle After Another, which is definitely influenced by this film as well, PTA has his main character in a quiet moment sit down to watch One Battle After Another, because it's clearly a powerful document to the revolutionary agreement to which he used to belong. That rekindled my interest in it. I think a lot of people's interest in it, and it's kind of stayed with me. Let's find Battle of Algiers. Let's watch that again. Found out that a group called Cult Films had released a disc which had been largely well received from a restored print. Look, time's come, push the button, got the disc. Speaking of which, now let's talk about the disc itself. As I said, it's released by Cult Films. Hadn't heard of them until I was searching for this film in particular. It's described as being released in 2025, which I think means it was, they got a lot of stock in to sell it after the increasing sort of attention to this film after One Battle After Another. It's a basic sort of plastic disc case with no slipcover. Reading the detail, it's from a 4K remaster of the film that took place in 2018, and you look at like online reviews of it, which I often do, and sort of web forum sort of reactions to this film. It did get sold and seen in 2018 when it came out. They used an original negative. Various restoration work was done to clean up, and they used that to create a digital image. They did a lot of effort to retain the original grain. This version was supervised by the director's son, Marco Pontecorvo, who was a director and cinematographer in his own right. Now, while it was used to create a 4K digital copy of the film, it's only so far been used to make a normal Blu Ray. This is different from the probably more famous, or historically more famous Criterion version, which dates back, I think, to about 2011 or 2012. The Criterion version doesn't have a Region B version, but if you're in Region A or can play discs from there, that's available too. But I'm talking about this film because I bought that. I'm only Region B. That Criterion version is from a non-restored older digital transfer, but it was supervised and approved by the original cinematographer from the film. On the Cult Films version I bought, as well as the main film, it's got some really good extras. I'm not normally that bothered by the extras. If you've watched any other episodes of this, I tend to just be about the film. But this film has such a unique history and legacy, it makes it worth checking out these extras. You've got an interview with the director, also an interview with one of the producers. It's like a separate interview with one of the producers who was an Algerian FLN guerrilla in the war. There's a making of piece on the restoration. An interview with an FLN fighter, Zora Drifbitat, who was a character portrayed in the film. She's still alive as at 2026, as I record. She went on to be a lawyer and politician in Free Algeria after the war. So she's a very, very interesting person to listen to. There's also two interviews, one with Ken Loach and one with Paul Greengrass, who each talk about the huge influence the film has over them and its legacy overall. So these are good extras, because what you do when you watch this film is you watch this film and then you start reading up about the Algerian War, you take a greater interest. And these extras are really good. There's a lot of discussion of, here's how we made the film, but here's how it compares to the real events. And bear in mind, these real events were not finished that long before they made the movie. So it's a really special piece of work with some really special extras. It's quite the document. Now to the video. So the film's shot entirely in black and white. I think there's two reasons for that. In 1966, especially if you're an Algerian-Italian co-production, not necessarily got access to the film stock that David Lean was using, that kind of richly coloured, deep flesh tone Technicolor is probably not the colour you want for a movie like this anyway. Also, they wanted to reproduce the feel of a newsreel documentary, and they did so realistically with this black and white film that some American distributors added disclaimers when they showed the film that it was all dramatised with no real footage used, because it looks so real. In terms of technical spec, you don't get a lot of detail. Someone could probably dig it out and find out exactly what brand of celluloid they use, but it was standard 35mm film with spherical lenses. Some of it is made to look a bit more square like TV footage, but it's mostly designed to just have that new newsreel big screen style, and it's all about the realism. And for those of you interested, the aspect ratio is 1:85:1. Funnily enough, we talked about that for The Green Knight, very different film, but it's like very tall, wide but tall. Now, there has been some criticism of this disc release on the video side, to be clear. The 4K restoration has been used to make a Blu Ray. It appears to be some compression's been done, some digital work's been done on it, and it's not to everyone's taste. You can find screenshots online that show where the detail in some shots is sort of criticised for a loss of detail. And they say the contrast is too high in some cases. I'm not the best qualified for the in-depth technical details, but some people do prefer the increased overall quality of this new restoration because it is a really, really good restored print, while others do prefer the Criterion, even though it's an older version, and that's not perfect either. My thoughts, like I say, I don't think there's any perfect version of the video image for this film. On the other hand, I don't think it would look right if it was completely pristine, given that it's aiming for documentary realism on an old black and white film. I wouldn't want them to start messing with it digitally together. I mean, James Cameron should keep his fucking hands off and keep that DNR away from it, Also, I didn't get distracted for 1 second from the brilliance of the film. Sometimes when I'm doing these, I will watch the film just to go, let's have a look at this. I know the key scenes, so let's watch this. Let's see what this looks like. Some films, especially when they're a big favourite of mine, I just sit down and watch the whole bloody thing, 2 or 3 times. And this is what I did with this one. I put it on, watched it all the way through, and at no point did I get distracted by the video. At no point did I go, oh, there's something wrong with his forehead in that shot. I think any issues are minor, and the film is so good and so styled to be documentary style and not necessarily, Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, that you don't need that, I don't think. Your views on that might vary, but either way, there's no definitive video transfer of this film at the moment, and I'd be surprised if you'd find anyone who thinks that really either available Blu-ray version of this film kind of ruins it with what they've done with the video. I think in future the ideal would be some sort of 4K Blu-ray release of this that just fully implements the restoration that we've done, or a bigger capacity Blu-ray that doesn't require any compression. Maybe someone will go back and retouch the way they've done this transfer. I don't know. I'm not sure important how any of that is, because the style and quality of the original source is never going to be pristine anyway, and doesn't need to be. And like I say, the video was more than good enough for my engagement with this film. So I just wanted to talk about that. There have been discussions about the video on that, but when you sit down to watch this film, I don't think there are any problems. The sound is much more straightforward. It builds on the original sound mix, which was mono for the film release, but this is a stereo mix. This is excellent audio, new for this disc, and it packs a punch for the action. You've got power, thundering boots on the ground as the paratroopers run through the city. You've got gunfights. You've got explosions, but also you've got to be able to pick out all the different ambient sounds of the people in the city, because this film wants to put you right there, and that means there is someone down that street shouting. There's someone in a window top. You hear the explosion close up, but then they cut to where people quite far away hear that explosion and how you feel it across the city. And that ambient sound is very important and captured very well here. You also have as well as those battles and explosions, which you'll be aware of, you also have this extraordinary sound, which is the Algerian people's kind of ululating war cries going all day and all night from the Casbah when their resistance is reaching this peak. And it's really haunting, it's really defiant, and it just, the sound is very, very important to just capture the atmosphere of this film. And this sound is really, really good. Although it's only stereo, any decent sound system will give you the immersion that you need where you want to hear things near and far and all that sort of thing. like I say, combined with the amazing visual style of the film, it puts you in the streets in the middle of the action. You feel like you're running through that door with the characters. The score is superb as well. Morricone is obviously one of the greats, but from when you read up, Pontecorvo had some strong views on the score, and it's definitely a mix of their influences. You get some of the usual Ennio style in some of the musical themes, and there are some emotionally resonant moments, but it maintains a restrained style appropriate to the film, really, because it's got to match that overall approach. It's got to feel like a documentary, even though it's a dramatized film. It's also got some really great percussive traditional Algerian musical sounds mixed in. Some of the music is like a bit more like some of the sort of the stripped down cues that you get, like heartbeat, batter batter batter, clock ticking, action sounds you get. It's not all orchestral. But all the different things sort of combine really well. It's breathtaking, and the sound brings that score across really beautifully here. I mean, if you go on Amazon or any site, it's got a video, you can hear the main theme, and it's great Ennio stuff, and then the actual soundtrack itself comes across really well here. Overall, look, this is unequivocally an all-time great film. This is one of the all-time best films based on real events. Portraying like an urban war in the kind of realistic detail that you will honestly never find better anywhere else. Although, look, Children of Men is one of the greatest films of all time, and its use of these techniques is stunning, but there's something really special like going back to watching this original film, and it's a brilliant and exciting watch. Lots of real heart and mouth moments. One of the criticisms of the film, which is again many reminder, is you don't get really deep characterization. You don't get to know people, the background of the characters, but that's, I think, towards its documentary feel. You get to know the people on the way. It's also, as I say, such a superb document of these events. I mean, if you really want to know what it was like there and then, this is the best one to do it. And because of its significance and legacy for other films and other events and other, real life, groups who are influenced by this film, you just feel like this film is a piece of really vital action that you need to be aware of. And it's then great, like I said about Children of Men, it's also great when you go back to other favourite films you have, which are clearly influenced by this film. It's great to watch. The one I didn't mention, Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan, is heavily influenced by this for the beach scene at the beginning, although there's nothing as gory as that in this film. And obviously it's a terrific companion to One Battle After Another. If you love that film as I do, the Battle of Algiers, although it's kind of so different in so many ways in style to that, but seeing those political legacies kind of linked, across the two films is really cool as well. So an absolutely amazing film. Can't say enough about it. Should you add this film to your physical media collection? I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward, yes. It's an essential part of any physical media collection, if you ask me. What's less straightforward is which version to buy. If you're in Region A territories and you can't play Region B, then you will go for the Criterion because it's available there. And the Cult Films version that I bought was only Region B and C. If you can play discs from any region, some people might prefer Criterion because everyone loves a Criterion disc, and that has various features and things that you might like. I think this Cult Films version is excellent though, and it's good enough for any collection. A few criticisms of the video, notwithstanding, because they make no difference to your enjoyment of the film. My view would be that you should definitely buy whatever version you can get. However, whatever version you do get, it's probably not the last one you're ever going to buy. I feel as though another version will be along in time, which might be definitive, because this film already existed, this Cult Films version already existed, and they've obviously restocked the shelves because of increased interest after One Battle After Another. I think someone's going to go back to this film and do another version, but I wouldn't wait. Who knows how long that will take, and you need to own this now. And either of the versions you can get, particularly the one I've talked about today, is a really good version of this movie. So don't hesitate. Get this film and watch it as soon as possible if you haven't seen it. It's an absolute stunner. So that's One Battle After Another. I hope you enjoyed me talking about it. I certainly enjoyed telling you about it and sharing my experience of the film with you. There are various other episodes of Maximum Disc to watch about other films. I hope you like them too. Once again, if you enjoyed the show, please do check out Double Reel, the podcast, and ways to find us and our socials there will be on the screen in a moment. In any event, I hope to see you next time for more physical media chat right here on Maximum Disc. The Maximum Disc YouTube channel is brought to you by Double Reel, the monthly magazine podcast for the discerning film nerd. If you like our celebration of physical media, please check out the podcast for more chat about the films we love and hate.